Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. Once again, I'm Jason Walker, ready to share with you another tea, to explore it, see what it is. This is from a more unique area, a place I don't usually get tea from. So, talk about that in just a moment. But these are large, really large leaves. So what you see that I'm doing, just kind of gently raking them in with my hand. You want to make sure, if you're using your hands to directly touch your leaves like this, you want to make sure your hands are free of any aromas, any oils, any that can be lotions, that can be fragrances from perfumes, from anything basically that you've handled. Even any soaps, detergents can even leave some kind of aroma as well. So you try to avoid those as much as possible. Water's been brought to an early boil. And I put in a little bit of extra leaf because this is a fairly bulky looking leaf. So, but I wanted to make sure that it would cover the bottom inch to inch and a half diameter of my guy one, yet be thorough enough that I could have done that easily with just a couple of leaves, but I knew I need a little bit more leaf for this tea. When I have a little bit of water just above the rim of my lid, so that looks good. I can now get my kettle out of the way and let that steep for just a moment and talk about this tea. This is from Journeyman. This is their Bvumbwe, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Peony white tea from the Satamwa tea estate, and that is in Tiolo, Malawi. So this is an African tea. It is a white tea. You can get 1 ounce for $7.75. Malawi, from what I understand, is one of the more impoverished countries of the world. It has, I believe, a very high, if not one of the highest, populations of AIDS victims as far as percentage of population of the country. So this is something that you may want to keep an eye on if you are choosing your teas based on how to kind of benefit, because a lot of tea estates in Malawi are actually owned by Europeans and other peoples, and not as much of that profit stays within the country. So you'd want to do some research on this particular on the states and ways that your spending can help and contribute to local populations and smaller communities. So, having said that, introduce this tea and talk a little bit about it. Starting off here with the dry leaf, want to give it a smell, and then move on to the wet leaf and the liquor. So it's a white tea. White teas originally were developed in China, hence I'm using a more Chinese style equipment here. Aromas on this particular are not that particularly white, Chinese white tea type characteristic. Aromas are more in the realm of a more fully, I say, a more deep, richly oxidized oolong, or even a lightly oxidized black tea. You're getting some kind of sweet fruit notes, and this is more like peaches, cherries, stone fruits kind of aromas coming off here. A little bit of a sweet, dried hay kind of smell as well. Perhaps a hint of sweet tobacco in there as well. Because these are large leaves, I don't think a spoon is going to help me that much. Let me just kind of, I'm better off just kind of shaking a little bit of leaf onto my hand here, because what you'll notice here are large leaves, fairly flat and wide, so that you have a lot of individual leaves or individual leaf portions. You notice the color. A lot of this, the color is a gray brown, more a tobacco leaf kind of rust brown. You get some pale green, So there are varying degrees of color here, and colors like this in a white tea likely suggest oxidation has taken place. There could be some heat that caused these leaves to be a darker color, but in the way that many white teas are actually processed, there's very little heat. There's a lot of this kind of sun drying that takes place with lighter amounts, if any, of heat toasting to finish the leaf there. So, having put the leaves back in my container, I'm going to go ahead to the pouring here, angle my lid of my gaiwan over to the side, and get ready to pour. Shake out those last few drops, because those are usually the more intense as far as flavor go. So while that's sitting there, and give this a shake, let those wet leaves settle back down to the bottom and give a smell of the wet leaf here. Aromas closer to the realm of what I find with black teas. I get a red globed grape kind of smell. I get a raisin bran, which is kind of the toasty raisin, the toasty flake, bran flake. So there's a toasted wheat kind of element there. There is a bit of a raisiny sweetness there. A little bit of a molasses smell coming out now. Or sweet brown sugar. So you got the brown sugar, you got the toasty wheat bran flake, you got the red globe grape slash with the kind of with the raisiny from the raisin bran. All those are aromas I often associate with black teas from various locations, not anything that particular. Pulling out a few of these wet leaves. This one is a fairly completely intact. I mean, the edges are the edges are fully intact as well. Not a lot of ragged edges, tearing, nicks, notches to move out of the removed from the leaf there. So I'm going to set that leaf. That's a large leaf. That's a 2.5, 3-inch leaf there. See if I can find some various size. Here's another one. This one feels a bit thicker, but again, it's about a 2 to 3 inch. It's that rust milk, somewhere between rust red and a kind of a milk chocolate type of brown, reddish brown. So let's see. Do I find any other sizes? Here's a leaf portion with what looks to be a tip that was broken, torn. So I'll set that there. You can get a leaf slash bud. I don't know if it's a set or close to a set, you could say. Leaf pear. I'm going to take away one of these leaves that I pulled out earlier, and I'm going to put this leaf pear. So there's 2 leaves attached. Okay. Again, similar, still brown, reddish brown, leathery looking colors. So, setting that aside. Did I find, here's a needle or bud there, a fairly large size. So I'm going to have to make space for that too, just because of the fact that it's there and it needs to be mentioned. So, setting that to the side now, get into the liquor. Give that a swirl and hold that up to the light. It's more in the amber, orange, red type color. It's a color that I see with some of your more fully oxidized oolongs. Okay. Flavor aromas are very gentle at this point, kind of woody, freshly cut raw lumber kind of smell. smooth character. I will say that it's not starchy. It's not overly drying in its feel. It's not watery thin though either. It's got a light yet smooth texture, mouthfeel to this. You get a bit of the wood, again, kind of raw lumber, kind of general raw lumber kind of smells, aromas, a bit of a dry wood kind of taste in the mouth. What else? Still some of that red glow grape, raisin bran element in the mouth and in the aroma there. Combined with a bit of the white tea type of rugged simplicity, rawness to it. It's got a bit of a, there's almost kind of a light peppercorn type of taste. There's a bit of a dry straw kind of taste in there as well. So those blend fairly well together. With one not being excessively dominant over the other. There is a bit that starchy element picking up a bit more, so that starchy pushes it a little bit more towards the straw, dried straw, a little bit of maybe of a raw potato kind of starchy aspect to it. As it cools, it seems that the mouthfeel drops off a little bit as well, so it gets a little bit more kind of thinner in the body. Looking at this tea as a whole, I should also consider the aftertaste. It has a fairly gentle aftertaste. It's a bit more of a thin brown sugar type of sweetness there, combined with a bit of the raisin bran, the wheat bran, the bran flake, kind of that toasty grain sweetness there as well. And combining all that, looking at this tea as a whole, it's got some desirable components, some pleasant components to it, but it's a little here, it's a little there, it's a little up, it's a little down. It's got some black tea components, it's got some oolong aspects to it, it's got some white tea moments here and there. So looking at as the whole, I would give this one, I'd probably give this one an 80. I would give this one an 84. Some nice components, but this is something that you want to particularly be familiar with, and understand before you decided whether it was your tea or not. It doesn't fall into some of the more familiar categories very easily. So come back to Walker Tea Review to find these new teas that may be a new category for you, or a new experience for you as well. Subscribe to the newsletter section so that you can have tea reviews like this delivered into your inbox directly, or subscribe to the member content section where you can get in-depth art. You can read the in-depth articles, interviews, and tea origin information for yourself.